Welcome back to the Late Night Madness on W Fool Radio. You tune into the only show where chaos comes complimentary. The only duo brave enough to talk nonsense with conviction. Ladies and gentlemen, Shabba, K, two talking fools, Shabba.
It is the Two Talking Fools podcast. And today you have Kate writing solo from my house. Haven't been feeling up to par the past couple days, but still have the energy to do all the things. Just sometimes I don't get sick often, knock on wood, thank God. But taking a couple days just to lay low. And I was like, well, I can talk to you guys because we'll edit this all up and it'll make my voice a little bit prettier, less raspier than it is. But anyways, welcome back to the show. Today is Tuesday, February 17th. I will say this, especially for those of you who suffer from seasonal depression. Doesn't it feel like January literally flew by? And usually January never flows by, like ever. So just the fact that we're already into February, we're past way mid-February. It's crazy. It's crazy. Before we get started on what we're talking about today, which if you recall the last episode we did like a Reddit deep dive into Appalachia, horror stories out of Appalachia. And it really doesn't even feel fair to make the episode 40 minutes long because the stories that I shared, there was probably thousands of those, so you try to find the ones that are maybe the most relevant, and you share them. But we could have gone on and on. Seems like you guys really like that one. So the episode that we're going to talk about today is Glitch in the Matrix. All right. Have you ever had a moment in your reality where it just didn't feel right? We're going to discuss that today. But before we get into that, when the end of the year comes, you're always like, okay, fresh year, fresh start. In the movie world, we already lost Catherine O'Hara and Robert Duvall yesterday. And I know I'm missing some in between. And Reverend Jesse Jackson. I take that back. Either Reverend Jesse Jackson died today, Robert Duvall yesterday, Catherine O'Hara. And my Instagram feed is literally flooded with like nostalgia type 90s, like remember what it was like to live in the 90s and all these different things. Mark my words, we're gonna have to do a support podcast. I'm gonna have to get fucking Macaulay Culkin on the show because, in fact, I'm gonna work on it because when Christmas rolls around this year, knowing that she's not here is just going to be deeply sad. And I know it's just, we all want to say that term. It's just an actress. No, it's another human being, first of all. But it's just somebody who has marked the most special moments in our lives. For a lot of us, childhood Christmas, if you were lucky to have one that was magical or felt magical to you. Then, you have the movies you watch every year, whether it's like Elf or, oh my gosh, Elf, Christmas Vacation, Home Alone, It's a Wonderful Life, all those. A Christmas Story. You get attached to these characters just because you share that special moment. So whatever. Very sad. I think it's just a great example of how you really have to enjoy life, live it to the fullest because time is fleeting. And that's not to be depressing because we're all going to go there. And I think sometimes we don't want to talk about it. And I understand it's scary, but it's just got to be one of those things where you just don't take life for granted. So rest in peace, Reverend Jesse Jackson, 84 years old, I believe, Robert Duvall, Catherine O'Hara. And yeah, it's just kind of like, okay, ready for spring now. That was a lot. That was heavy. In other news, Shanika is doing just fine. Shanika is doing just fine. For our local listeners, we are getting ready to begin the people of Stafford. We are locking in the first interview for the next couple weeks. Very excited for that. Nervous, actually. Nervous and excited. Nervous because I want to make sure we do it right, and excited because I can't wait to share it. But even talking about it right now, I can feel my voice is like shaking a little bit. So, anyway, so that's what we're going to be focusing on coming up. And we have other things going on too, but I'm doing this one solo today because it's tricky. I've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it 1,000 more. Someday, Shaba and I hope not to be, we hope to do this full time, but in the meantime, we both have full-time jobs. So between that and the schedule of the children, finding time together, a lot of people just assume that we're together all the time. And the truth is we're not. It's hard to even find one day a week, which is crazy. Also, side note, before we get into this Matrix episode here, I work a retail job, and on Saturdays, I like to take the music to the next level. I really like to give the experience. And so, if you work retail or wherever you are, if you're able to be in control of the music and you want something that's just like easy and will get people happy, Spotify, public playlist. It's by Tony Q. It's Kmart Radio. I am telling you, I'm freaking hooked on Kmart Radio. Just great music, stuff I haven't heard in a while, and it just like takes you back to like when you used to go shopping with your mom or dad or grandma, and you used to hide in the clothes and scare the fuck out of them. But yeah. All right, let's get into it, shall we? All right. So let's talk about, so how did I get started on this? I enjoy Reddit just as much as the next person, and I also enjoy TikTok. You mix the two of those together and you got yourself quite a fun little hobby. But one of the things that they were, TikToker was talking about was a glitch in the matrix. I'm like, dude, that would be so wild to get people's people's stories that had instances like that. So, and I'll be honest with you, as I read this, as I read these stories to you today, I have not had a glitch in the matrix situation. I don't know anyone who has, so this is interesting for me too. So it's not just coincidence, and it's not just deja vu, which deja vu I get often, but it's something that made you stop and think, wait, that shouldn't have happened. A person you swear you've never met who knows your name, an event that repeats exactly, an object that vanishes, then reappears in an impossible place, moments that feel like reality itself stuttered. So, how do we define glitch in the matrix? A glitch in the matrix is a modern phrase used to describe experiences that feel like breaks, errors, or inconsistencies in reality. Here's some examples: time behaving strangely, memories not lining up, impossible coincidences, reality repeating itself, objects appearing or disappearing. So, in short, it's the feeling that the word or our perception of it briefly malfunctioned. So, the phrase itself became widely known after the movie The Matrix back in '99, a movie I probably watched, but I don't remember. And in that film, a glitch signals a change in the simulated reality, like when Neo sees the same black cat twice. That tiny repeated moment meant something deeper was wrong beneath the surface. So while the whole idea of the glitch in the matrix is modern, the concept is actually more ancient than you think. For centuries, humans have described deja vu, time slips, prophetic dreams, doppelgangers, synchronicities, and missing time experiences. So the reality is that I'm a hard sell. So let's talk about some possible explanations, right? Psychological, memory errors, perception glitches, fatigue, stress, the paranormal, dimensional overlap, timelines crossing, unexplained phenomena, or simulation theory. The reality is a simulation, and sometimes the code slips. So why are we so fascinated? It's these stories tap into a universal curiosity and a fear. What if reality isn't as stable as we think? What if memory isn't perfect? And what if coincidence isn't random? So Reddit is literally filled, like I said, with thousands of firsthand accounts, stories that are hilarious and unforgettable, creepy, and today I am going to read several of them that I have chosen. So are these just brain hiccups? Or are we watching tiny glimpses of something we're not supposed to notice? Let's get into the stories. Okay, Reddit. Let's see here. Excuse me, I have to quench my thirst here. I'm not feeling 100%. All right. So this was from 7 months ago, and I am reading somebody's anonymous story. I've told this story before, but here goes. When I was a kid, my family and I went for a walk on the beach during midwinter because we're a little eccentric like that. Halfway through the walk, it started blizzarding fierce, and we decided to head back to the car. On the way back to the car park, my brothers and I were complaining of being tired, hungry, and thirsty. But my dad, who was born and raised in the area, assured us that there was nowhere to buy food and drink anywhere near that particular beach. However, as we battled through the whiteout towards the car park, a building loomed out of the blizzard. It was a strange building, like an annex to a 60s, 70s modern comprehensive school. People from the UK will know the style I mean. And squeezed in between four hedgerows atop the spine of a long, flat sand dune, as though it was there first and the ancient and haggard hedges had somehow grown up around it. Outside was a sandwich board advertising hot drinks and snacks. So we bundled on in. The place was packed. There must have been 4 or 5 dozen tables, and every single one was heaving with pen- pensioners eating tea, toast, tea cake, soup, etc. When we arrived, there were no other cars in the car park, and the nearest bus stop was in the village at the end of the track, a good few miles away. So goodness knows where all these old people had come from. The room itself was very strange. The tables and chair were all mismatched and arranged around glassy display cases on podiums filled with moldering taxidermied specimens of local wildlife, except many of the examples were either creatures who lived nowhere near the sea, hedgehogs, badgers, voles, or animals that aren't native or very rare to the area, cormorants, avocets, plovers, etc. At the center of the room was a squared off spiral staircase leading to the upstairs, which, despite having no curtains visible from the outside and being in the middle of the day in a bright white snowstorm, was pitch dark. I mean, so black we couldn't even see the top of the staircase banisters. We sat down, and my dad went off to go get us some food. The oddest thing is that even at the age I remember looking at the prices on the wall and being very confused because they were all in old money with prices in pennies, sixpence, shillings, etc. It was an open pass kitchen, and all the equipment behind it looked very old or retro, I guess, as did the clothes of the very plump, happy women working behind the counter. When my dad came back with the food, he couldn't stop talking about how amazingly cheap it was and how the woman who served him spoke to him using ultra specific regional dialect terms he thought had completely died out decades ago. He said it was like being a schoolboy at the truck shop again. The tuck, I think it's supposed to be truck shop. We ate our very, very generous and delicious tea cakes and hot chocolate, got back into our coats, hats, scarves, gloves, walked back out into the still raging blizzard. The whole time we were there, not a single other person entered or left, despite many tables clearly having finished eating before we had even arrived. We battled back to the car and with much difficulty maneuvered it back onto the track to the main road and headed home. In the years to come, we visited that beach again, many, many times. The building was not there. Not only was it not there, there were no signs it had ever been there. No rubble, no ruins, no footprints, no foundations, not even an ancient-looking hedges that it had squeezed itself inside of. Due to the beach being on a long promontory jutting out into a major shipping channel, the area has been fastidiously mapped for centuries. Using my student historical archive access, I studied maps of the area from roughly every decade back to the early century, 19th, and according to them, there was never ever a building on that site. Now, it's easy to think as I've grown older, I've become confused as to which beach we visited. But my dad, who was born and raised there, knew exactly which beach we were on. And the beach itself is very, very distinctive. A very long, thin, teardrop spit of sand extending across a river estuary now. I know it must have been that beach because I remember seeing the red warning beacons at the top of the suspension bridge crossing the estuary blinking through the blizzard. The place didn't exist, had never existed. I ate tea cakes and drank hot chocolate with my family in a place that simply never was. Here's another story. That one's gonna knock you. Here's another story. Not as creepy, but certainly unsettling. Again, when I was a kid, my younger brother and I shared a bedroom. We had two single beds on opposite sides of the room. One night before going to bed, my mom, younger brother, older brother, and I were getting our uniforms ready for school the next day. My mom took my younger brother's school trousers and laid them out on top of my bed. I don't mean just flop them down. I mean properly aligned the creases and smoothed them out. Then me, and my younger brother sat down on the edge of the bed to listen to something my older brother was saying, who was sitting opposite us on the edge of my younger brother's bed. He said something that made us laugh, and as we were all chuckling, our final chuckles, Mom, my younger brother, and I looked back at my younger brother's school trousers as we still had to find his shirt. They were gone, vanished, disappeared, up and fled this mortal realm. We stripped the bed, we took off the mattress, we searched under the bed by both hand and eye. They weren't there. Now remember, this whole time my older brother was facing us. If anything had taken them or they'd somehow got up and walked off by their own accord, he'd have seen it. I remember it causing some mild mayhem because my younger brother had ripped his main trousers earlier that day, so the ones we were laying out were the spare pair. Now that they'd vanished, my mom had to send him to school in his shorts the next day despite being mid-October. We didn't even find them when we moved houses the next year. They'd simply popped out of existence entirely. Whew. Okay, here's another story. It was storming like mad when I drove home from work at 10 p.m., and I was on a two-lane, 45-mile-per-hour, mostly straight country road with small rolling hills. The area has had a lot of population growth lately, so there's a ton more cars on the road at all hours now. I'm used to getting stuck behind slow drivers. This road also had deep drainage ditches on the sides because it's in a floodplain, and the road surface isn't in great condition either, so there's lots of deep puddles of standing water because the ditches were already overflowing by the time I left work. I have ADHD and have a tendency of tailgating on autopilot, so I tried very hard not to creep up on people, and the rain was so bad it was like I was driving through a hurricane, so I left a good amount of space between our cars. The guy behind me was not happy that we were going under the speed limit and goes to pass both me and the car in front of me, with a tractor trailer coming over the hill in the opposite lane. The guy behind me guns it and tries to burn past us both, and I had just enough time to say, "Oh, you dumb fuck." And my lizard brain must have realized my life is in danger and went on hyper alert or something because time slowed down so much. It was like I was watching a movie in slow motion. I see the dude try to speed around me. He loses traction, hydroplanes a little. I'm braking hard, seeing what's about to happen, and sliding a bit as well. But heavy trucks hauling a trailer can't stop on a dime, certainly not in a heavy downpour. The truck driver is leaning on the horn, and the guy rips his car back into my lane between me and the car in front of me, and I swear to God, he went through the front end of my car. I drive an Elantra, so it's a fairly compact car, but I saw the tail end of his car intersect and pass through my car like when graphics clips with each other in video games. It looked like he drove just through me like I was a ghost, or he was a ghost. but the truck saw him too. I have never wished I had an onboard dash camera more than that night because I just want to verify if I'm crazy. My proximity sensors were going crazy on my dashboard. So if he just missed me, it must have been by a micrometer, though my brain can't fathom how it happened. It makes me wonder if my parallel self in another dimension is now in a body bag in the morgue. I am still baffled as to why I'm not in traction in the hospital right now because some impatient jackass needed to win the Indy 500 on a flooded back road in a goddamn monsoon. I like reading these stories because I like hearing it from people, and I don't know. I think it puts it in the perspective. And I also think that it's interesting that they go to Reddit of all places to tell these stories. Some people don't always tell their stories. This next one I'm about to read, he or she, it said that they've told the story before. When I was 25, I was driving home from the paint store and was waiting at the stoplight off the freeway exit ramp. While waiting, I heard brakes of a car screeching behind me. When I looked in my rearview mirror, I saw a car was about to hit my vehicle. The next thing I know, I am outside of my SUV and I see the paint extension pole that I had just purchased went right through my skull. Blood, brains on the windshield. I remember just looking at the wreck. I wasn't scared. I wasn't feeling anything. Then the next thing I remember, I am sitting back inside of my car. Again, I hear the screeching brakes of the car behind me. Again, I look in the mirror and the car looks like it will hit mine, but the car moves to the left and passes by mine without hitting it, and went through the red light and managed to avoid crashing into anything. When the car passed me on the left, I swear the person in the passenger seat was looking at me with a look of surprise or horror. In my mind, I imagined they remembered or saw what I had. I remember sitting at the light for a few seconds thinking, what just happened? It was such an odd thing to witness or make up in my head. I had never had anything like that happen before. Then the light turned green and I just drove myself home. It just so happened that this outing was the very first time I had ever left my baby. I just wanted to get home to her. There is a part of me that believes that my body may have had a different soul, and my soul is a walk-in. The accident was for the previous soul to experience the death, and my soul came into the body to live the rest of the life in this body. From what I have been told, walk-ins do spend time with the previous soul so that they are familiar with the life, and the previous soul does stay for a while to assist the new soul in the body until integration. People who saw me after this did tell me how much I had changed. I had just got married and had a baby, so changes a person too. But one odd thing was that my hair used to be dark, huge, and curly. Then after this, it started to straighten and turn gray. This is my strange story. All right, so you guys let me know. You guys let me know, A, do you have a story like this? And if you do, you can always send it to me at twotalkingfools@gmail.com. You can also message us on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok if you feel more comfortable or want to get to us, not necessarily faster, but just different. And if you like these segments and you'd like me to go longer, let me know. If you'd like to get shorter, let me know. Because there's other topics that I want to go over too. And just to tease you a little bit, one of the topics, deep dives that I'm doing right now is actually on the latest Epstein files to be released. And in particular, I am researching EFTA 000800475. And that's all I'm going to say. So if you enjoy these, please let me know. But the next dive, maybe it's not going to be the next dive I do, but one of them is going to be on the Epstein files. I've been doing some research on that too. So I hope you like these. Like I said, we all like either Reels or we like TikTok, and then we find things that interest us. And one minute I can be watching an influencer show how to put makeup on, and the next I can be watching, TJ the homesteader making his carnivore dinner. So I have a broad, like my music is broad that I listen to, and so is what I watch on TikTok and things like that. So the inspiration is there, and then it makes me go to Reddit, and then when I'm sitting there reading on Reddit, I'm like, I want to talk to this with a podcast group. So anyway, And I don't always want to bother Shaba with these crazy ideas because, it's like reading stories, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it. So I hope you guys do too. If you have anything you'd like to share, twotacticals@gmail.com. Otherwise, take care of yourself, be kind to others, and we'll see you next time.
Every topic like I'm breaking the tracks, laughing too hard, nearly dropped my seat. Shaba on the vibe, keep the chaos on beat.
I'm the calm in the storm till the storm says nah. Then I'm laughing so hard I forget where we are. Got jokes on deck, got receipts on blast. I correct Shaba's nonsense, but we still talk fast.
From car rides, mics to the late night stream, we drag every weird idea to the extreme. Yeah, we fools, but beloved, that's truth. Can't keep it clean, but I still shake the booth.
City lights humming, vinyl breathing cool. Two talking fools. Breaking rules while they laugh and cruise. Everybody tunes in cause they love these fools. Do I flip in the boom bap? You turn it up loud for the talking fools. Do I flip in the boom bap? You turn it up loud for the talking fools.
We spinning stories like vinyl gold. Yeah, tape is warming up every episode. We don't stay on cue, we just go where it flows. Chaos in control, that's the way the show goes. Let's go.
Two mics, two minds, one wild groove. Every week is two talking fools. Two mics, two minds, one wild